Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Roll the Dice with Dave. Hope everybody's doing good this evening. Just want to do some housekeeping. So, first, if you are on Facebook, please go ahead and hit that like button and go ahead and share the video. Also, don't forget, Roll the Dice with Dave broadcasts also on YouTube Live. So, you can go ahead and subscribe to Roll the Dice with Dave on YouTube and check out all the latest with the guests and all the different topics we are talking about. Before we get into today's topic, I do want to make a brief announcement because it's something that I did not really think a lot about until today. And a lot of people were talking about it. It was all over the news. But today marks the 1 year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. It doesn't matter what side of the argument you are on with that. That was a tragic aspect for a man to lose his life the way he did. So I just wanted to recognize and let everybody know that it is the 1 year anniversary of George Floyd's murder. So I wanted to go ahead and just throw that out there before we get into tonight's topic of conversation. So hopefully everybody's interested in talking about the food industry, interested in just talking about a little bit of culinary mastery. I'm talking with somebody tonight that I have a lot of respect for, and I'm excited to have him on the show. So I'm going to go ahead and bring out tonight's guest. I have Chef Tyrone Bennett, also known as the Celebrity Chef of St. Augustine. How's it going, Tyrone?
How you doing? I wouldn't say I'm a celebrity, man.
No, I would definitely say the status is growing, man, because a lot of people that I talk to, when I mention your name, they know who you are. So I would definitely say the status has moved into the celebrity realm. I would go so far as to say Celebrity Chef of St. Augustine. So if you don't mind, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Tyrone Bennett.
All right, yeah. So I'm Chef Tyrone Bennett. I don't really call myself a chef. I was born and raised in New York. Went to high school there. Go Tigers. And grew up Hempstead High School in Hempstead, Long Island. I graduated, from Johnson Wales University in 2005, 06, 06. When I was in high school, I didn't even know this until later on, but I ended up doing an apprenticeship at the Garden City Hotel, which is a hotel in New York City that has a Michelin star. I was not even know about that until I got older. I don't know if they had it when I was there, but they have I believe I have a Michelin star so far. But then I got just really kind of when I graduated Johnson Wales, I just wanted to keep trudging in culinary arts. So I worked and through myself through kitchens in Providence, Rhode Island, which I stayed for 8 years. When I was in Providence, Rhode Island, I actually worked a lot alongside local chefs and local restaurants there in Providence, and that's where actually the whole We Feed the movement started. I know I started it here in St. Augustine last September, but the whole We Feed St. Augustine was actually born and bred in Providence, Rhode Island, because I had the idea of um, getting local restaurants and chefs. This was back in 2008, 2009, 2010 area, where you had the hurricanes in Dominican Republic, you had the earthquake in Haiti, that whole big travesty. We were going through all that travesty between 2008 and 2012. And so when I was in Providence, I said, you know what? I'm going to do something here locally, but I also want to raise, funds and food and kind of, send groceries over to the island. So we end up starting this thing called We Feed, and it's local restaurants. Me going out to local restaurants and local area businesses and kind of asking them, hey, we have poverty in Providence, Rhode Island was high. Um, we have some issues going on in Dominican Republic and Haiti. We also want to raise awareness to that as well, send over a barrel of clothing and stuff like that. So I started reaching out to local restaurants, local chefs in the area, and we did that for 5 years. We did, and this was pre-COVID, so everything was in person. We had the thing that I always said to myself when I was in Providence was, if you're homeless if you're in need, doesn't mean that you cannot have a 5-star meal. And so I got local chefs and local restaurants in Providence, and had them donate this place called Via Roma. It's a restaurant
Hmm.
up on Federal Hill in Providence, and they allowed me to use their space. He was the first one, and he said, "Yeah, of course you can." And I was like, "You sure, man? It's gonna be families in need. It's not gonna be your typical 5-star. You're wealthy or you're working class people." He's like, "I don't care about that. They can come. You work. Prepare food. I'll put in food. I'll talk to other restaurants. We'll set it up." And they came and sat in the restaurant and ate, and we had people from the community and from the local college, also Johnson Wales, feed those families in need, and had people sit down. They were so gracious, and so that's where the whole We Feed initiative started. I know that a lot of people know that I've done here in St. Augustine, but I just always want to tell my story of that. That's where it came. That's where it started from. I didn't just come out of nowhere, and so that's where the mission originally started, and then I kind of stopped doing it because I was moving around Florida, um, focusing on my culinary attributes, going through, working for Marriott, working for Reunion Resorts. I worked from Florida Hospital. I worked for Puff and Stuff Catering out of Orlando.
Okay.
I also worked for Orlando Health, Florida Hospital. I worked for Marriott. I worked for Hilton, and then my big transition came when I went and I started working for Reunion Resorts. And Reunion Resorts is a major golf property in the Kissimmee area, where they have catering. They have 5 outlets, which outlets means restaurants. They also have a hotel. They have a catering department. They have vacation property rentals. They have a water park. So it was just a massive undertaking. And so I became the sous chef, and then also worked at shout out to Chef Francesco's in Maitland, Italian chef, and he also took me under the wing. And so I've had just culinary education, not just in education from Johnson
Hmm.
Wales, but learning at all the places I had just listed, and also working in Providence and Massachusetts, and here locally in St. Augustine, but also in Orlando and Kissimmee. And so I moved here in St. Augustine, November, almost 2 years now, almost a year and a half, and
Okay.
I was recruited out of from what's the place called, Reunion Resorts, to come to St. Augustine. And the company wanted me to run one of their local restaurants here, which I ended up meeting you at one of those
Hmm.
restaurants. And then I also worked at Hangar One, and then I also did some local catering, and then now I'm over at Flagler doing my work there at Flagler, and in the fall opening a food truck and a food trailer. So my path to where I am, I don't forget where I came from. I started as apprenticeship at the Garden City Hotel in New York City, um, and went from all the way there as a kid. Traveled my way, and I still don't know everything. I'm still learning. I've been gracious to meet local chefs here in St. Augustine, and be part of the food scene. And I'm just trying to make my mark. I'm still learning. I'm still evolving. And we also started We Feed St. Augustine here locally last September, when everybody got laid off, and I wanted to do something here locally, and so it ended up becoming a project of mine, and said, well, if I did it in Providence, Rhode Island, I should be able to do it in St. Augustine. And I
Hmm.
started working with local chefs and local restaurants. And our main goal was to use donations of food, never to get into monetary donations and raise donations that way. I've used a lot of my personal money to kind of start the organization. I started, out of pocket, maybe $5,000 or $6,000 just out of my own pocket to kind of to start the organization, because it's not easy and asking for donations. And so we get donations here and there, financial donations, but it's really more of a donation of food. I rather people donate food than money, and so that we know where you get the food, you give it back to the families in need. And so that's where the evolution of everything has been. And then I started a hot plate just to just to have some fun. just to help market restaurants and local businesses. And I use the hot plate as a platform just to help local, just to talk to local restaurants and local business owners.
Hmm.
And it's they don't have to pay for it. It's free. I don't accept money. I don't accept free dinners or favors, anything like that. If you want to sit down and talk to me, go ahead and sit down and talk to me. We'll sit down and talk. We'll talk about anything. And I just it's really interesting to just talk to different people in different realms of the food industry here locally and how they got started. I've been to some farms. I've been to farms. I've been to high end restaurants. I've been to barbecue restaurants. I've been to family restaurants all over the place, and it just the outpouring of the support of the community has allowed me to learn so much. And again, this I just wanted to help to help tell the people's story. Again, I never take any money. I don't charge anybody. These are free services. I actually put a lot of my time and effort and money into the show. As you know, anything you do on the show, production and stuff like that. So it's just a hobby. Never again, it's not. Some people may think it's like a promotion or a marketing company. It's not a promotion. It's not a marketing company. It's just I just wanted to sit down and have a good conversation with the people and have fun, and that's what it's about.
No, that's an awesome backstory. Thank you so much. I actually learned a few new things about you that I didn't really know before. So thank you so much for that introduction. I do have a quick question, and one is coming from a guest. The question was, how can they go about donating? So that was a question that they asked. Now, this individual, I know she isn't local, right? She's not in the St. Augustine area. So she asked, how can she donate or how can she help the We Feed process?
Yeah, so she can go to www.wefeedstateaugustine.org.
So let me go ahead and put that in the chat. So it's www.wefeed.
Saint
So
And
you should see the comment pop up. Hopefully I got it in there right.
no, I don't see anything.
If you look, you should see something that says comments. Oh, are you on your phone? You may not be able to see it if you're on
Yeah.
your phone. That could be, yeah, so that could be it. So I do have it in the Facebook comments, www.wefeedstateaugustine.org. So that's one way that somebody
Find
can
out
reach
about
out and help make a donation. Okay.
Yeah, they can go find out about donating time, volunteering, donating food. Again, like I said, it's one of those things that I'd rather you donate food in your time and your volunteer. But if you can't, we also accept financial donations, but we make sure you get a receipt, and 100% of the donations collected goes back into the community. We're going on our fifth event that we're doing July 15th at Bridge of Life Church with Pastor Ilzea over there, Pastor Alizea, and he's a very good guy in the community on 96 Masters Drive. And so 100% of all profits, proceeds, money, donations, clothing donations, food donations goes right back out to the community. And if we have stuff left over, we go out and we give it to neighborhoods, we give it to churches, local churches like United Methodist Church or the local St. Francis Shelter. We've given a lot of stuff to them as well. So everything goes out. Nothing, we don't keep anything on hand. Everything goes right back out to the community.
Awesome. That's awesome to know. I do have another question to kind of follow up with that. How much food have you given out over the year, the last year or so that you've been doing this in St. Augustine?
Yeah, so since September started, since we started last September, we started in the heart of the pandemic, September of 2020, and from September 2020 to current date, we're over 200,000 pounds of food. Over 200,000 pounds of food. Families served, about almost 2,000 families served, estimated to be around that point, and we get a lot of local restaurants, like we get even people donating food, local organizations, and we make sure. And how we get these, how we distribute to these families is that we contact the United Way, we contact the St. John's Care. We contact Salvation Army, Florida Cares Connect, Flagler Care Connect, and we reach out to all these nonprofit organizations. Says, please identify these families that you know that you work on a daily basis, and please invite them to come to our event so they can receive the free items that we're giving away. And we don't ask any questions. We don't question people if you're in need or not, but we make sure that we're doing a diligent job in going to these nonprofit organizations and promoting so they can identify those families that are in need, so that those people come out first.
Cool. Thank you so much for all of that information. I want to go ahead and slide into the next little segment piece of the show tonight. So it's the review. Recently, we had an event here in St. Augustine. It was the St. Augustine Food and Wine Festival. Do you mind just sharing your thoughts? I know you were there. You were all over the place. You were going live. You were speaking with people. Do you mind just giving your thoughts and feedback on what you thought about the event, how you thought it helped St. Augustine, and if you'd like to see this event take place again in the St. Augustine area?
Yeah, so I thought it was a very good, well-planned event. Shout out to Jan Gurley.
Jan Gorley. Mm-hmm.
Jan Gorley is her name, and she is a great person. She does this all over the place. This is not her only one. She is doing it again next year in St. Augustine. And so I thought it was a great highlight of local chefs and local talent. And also national chefs. You had national chefs come in. You had regional chefs, some people from Louisiana, Georgia, Savannah, Illinois, Chicago. We had people from Chicago, Virginia Willis. We had Chef Manit, but we also had a lot of the local chefs be able to display their talent and skill. And so it was a good combination of local, national, and regional chefs all coming together, sharing knowledge, putting on great displays. All the great local people doing a great job, and all the credit and kudos go to them and on their everyday work that they do here in the community, as well as their food. But it was a good mashup, and I thought it was a good lot of food, a lot of drinks, lot of events. It was a weekend that once one thing was over, it was going to the next. They had shows, they had master classes, they had outside the classes, they had inside classes, they had local vendors there, they had national vendors come through. It kind of brought into basically like a trade show, like a trade show coming into town, which also helped the economy as well. People booked because you had people that traveled. You had people that travel on the road to come to this event. It was like, it's good to have local events, but it's also good to have events locally where people are coming from out of town, like a Nights of Lights, where they're spending money from out of state dollars to bring in money into the community. And so I thought that was a great thing. She did a great job marketing, and she did a great job with organization. It was like a big powerhouse of organization that she did. So shout out to Jan Gurley, and the St. Augustine Food and Wine Festival committee, and Kelly as well. Kelly is another lady that coordinated as well.
Yeah, she did. I'm sorry, I missed that last part. What was that, Chef Tyrone?
Clarence, he was the lead chef for the entire, the whole in charge of the food, stuff like that. And so I think that'd be great next time, and also to incorporate maybe some of your college students, the hospitality, so we can get some college students involved in that as well.
Yeah, the thing I liked about it, I was there for the winemakers dinner, which was awesome. It was unbelievable. And then actually there for the big event on that Saturday, and there were a lot of people there. A lot of people enjoyed it. Everybody had a really, really good time. I think that's the beginnings of a lot of really cool things to come for that event. So next thing I wanted to ask you about, and this is HTM highlights, and just to get your take on this and what's going on with the industry. I know you've seen it. There have been a lot of job fairs going on right now, but what is your take on the labor issue in the food and beverage industry? Do you think it's going to get better? What do you think the food and beverage industry needs to do to help tackle this labor shortage issue?
Well, I think with I did a job fair myself. We had some people come out, but what I'm hearing from, I know there's a shortage among business owners and chefs and not just in the hospitality field, in every field.
Every field.
I
Hmm.
think that part of it is that some people may have um, left the industry to go out to venture into different things. Some people have gone out to um, kind of gone out to seek different, different industry, and also guess the living, I guess the not, I would not say the wage, but the cost of living. I don't want to really put it on the wage. I want to really put the focus on the cost of living in St. Augustine in St. Johns
Hmm.
County. It's kind of high. And so the thing is, if you are a server or if you are a laborer on a construction site and you're trying to pay rent and rent's $2,500 a month or $2,000 a month, or even $1,500 a month, and you're making, I don't know, $600 or $700 a week, and you're making every 2 weeks $1,400 or $1,600,
Yeah.
and that's before taxes. Then a apartment that's $1,800 or $1,900 doesn't really, that doesn't really pay off. And so I think that what I suggested to, I was reached out to one of the me and a local chef was talking before, and I suggested, this is just a suggestion, is that just like in um, with like Section 8 housing or voucher, like a voucher system, I think that
Hmm.
if local people, or if you're in the hospitality field or the business field, or like a labor, like manual labor service, basically a service field,
Yes.
and you're applying for housing or you're looking for rent, um, I suggest that probably would help is that the city and the county get use a type of a voucher system where they get a credit for renting to people in the industry of hospitality or service, and then they take that proof, like if I apply for housing if you was a landlord and Dave Rivera owned an apartment or a house, and I said, well, I work in a restaurant. Okay, no problem. Let me get a letter from your job stating that you work here and it's on your application, and then I would be able to apply. I'd be available to get a discounted rent. So yes, you usually rent that apartment for $1,500 a month, but then if I can get a voucher for say $900 rent, and then the latter of that rent is still covered by the county and the city, because
Hmm.
we all know through pandemic and through emergency management funds, a lot of counties and a lot of cities got a lot of CARE money, CARES Act money, and so
Hmm.
that's where we can kind of help with the shortage. Is that we can use that type of program so that we can get employees to jobs that would help curb the kind of curb the shortage. I'm not saying it's a one answer. So this is not Tyrone Bennett saying this is perfect. This is the answer, and that is it. I'm saying these are just one of the choices because always a solution based person. Okay, we have a labor shortage. What can we do as a community, as a county? Yes, the unemployment is going to be running out. Yes, okay. So, but I don't think after unemployment runs out that's automatically going to fix it, because it's not. This is not just a local thing. I think it's a national thing. Housing and cost of living is still high. It doesn't matter if you have unemployment or not. Yes, you have people that abuse the system, and you have abuse in every system. I always say that
Yeah. Yeah.
there's good and bad in every system, and so you're going to find people that's going to abuse the system no matter what. But I think for those people, especially in the service industry, any service that you're doing, what I just explained to you, if they were able to get some type of break in cost of living expensive, and wage cost of living expensive, then that would help with the shortage. Because if I live in Jacksonville, why would I drive from Jacksonville to St. Augustine to work when I could just live in Jacksonville?
Jacksonville.
Or
Yeah.
I'm just using that as an example, so because you need wear and tear, gas, stuff like that. So that's just one of my suggestions, and I just think it's going to be a multi-level kind of approach to this. It's not just one. It's not a one word or one fix situation. And so I think the shortage is unfortunate. I think that we're going to be able to get back at it soon, and we'll be able to. But we have to address those things. We have to address the cost of living. The cost of living is high. Nobody can. No one cannot deny that cost of living is high right now. Despite everything, the cost of living is high, and so if we can kind of work around that and kind of give solutions. And so I'm always talking, trying to brain knocking my head against certain things to say, what if this or what if that or what if the what ifs. But I think that's kind of like the approach you have to take. It's like, okay, if one thing is not working, what can we do to the next, or can we do to the
So no, I like that idea, and I think that's the only way things are going to get done, right? If people just sit down around a table and actually talk it out, and then see what they can do to put in place, because something needs to be done, especially here in St. Augustine right now. Something definitely has to be done, and I feel instead of having more people such as yourself sitting down trying to find solutions, we just have a lot of people running around and screaming and yelling that there's a problem instead of trying to figure out a solution. So I really appreciate your insights and your thought on that, Chef. Thank you so much.
That's one of those things that when I was younger, my mother always taught me, okay, there's a problem, how do we fix it? We can't sit, once the milk is spilled and we cried over it, all right, after that, how do we fix it? And so it's just one of those things, is that just everybody coming together and trying to come up with many solutions. Maybe it may have to be not just one, but many solutions.
No, I agree with that. So this next little segment is called "In Your Opinion," and I'm going to put you on the spot here with this one, because depending on who it is, they could have all different kinds of answers. But I'm really just curious on your take, because I know you've traveled and done so much stuff. This could be anybody, but in your humble opinion, who would you put as the best chef ever? So I'm asking you the GOAT question instead of basketball, right? Instead of the basketball GOAT, I'm asking you the cooking GOAT. Who do you think is the greatest chef of all time?
I personally believe I like Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
I don't think he's the best chef in all time, but I think he is the best of this generation. I'm trying to collaborate, like my you asking me personally, my
yeah man yeah, this show is all about Chef Tyrone Bennett. Yeah, so it's all about
so
you today, brother.
I I give I give I give credit to, I have to say, two people. Okay.
All right, no, that's all good. Let's go.
I want to give Anthony Bourdain, and I also want to give Chef Emeril Lagasse.
Okay.
And I say Emeril Lagasse, then you have to give, Julia Childs, because she's really started that. But Emeril Lagasse, there's two segments to it. Emeril Lagasse really took TV, television, to a whole nother level. He's kind of like embraced it, took it from Julia Childs, and said, okay, let's see what Julia Childs is doing, but then let me go ahead and take this to a whole nother level. And I get he's the one is like the one of the founders of cooking on TV. Celebrity Chef TV Food Network, before all the Bobby Flays and the Rachel Rays and and the Guy Fieri's and everybody else. I always loved him when I was little. I was always a fan of Emeril Lagasse. I know he has, sometimes he gets a bad rap for being mean and whatever, but he to me is one of my top favorite in that zone. And then I have to pay homage to Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain, as a chef, was very smart and cynical and a realist in regarding to his just approach on life, and then his
Mm-hmm.
approach on cooking. And he's one of those people that is just, it is what it is. He had that type. That's how he lived his life. He said he messed up in life. He did a lot of drugs. He did a lot of drinking. He cooked. He played around. He had fun. He explored the world. He took life by you know by the mountains and said, let me just go out here and enjoy it. And so I really enjoy. I think Anthony Bourdain to me is one of the greatest chefs ever. Just his knowledge, just his fascination of food, his how to communicate the his work and his opinion, also his execution of food. When I was in high school, that's all I was studying was Anthony Bourdain and Emeril Lagasse. Anthony Bourdain, Emeril Lagasse. And those are my. Then you have Wolfgang Puck. Wolfgang Puck
Mm-hmm.
is a legend in itself. But I kind of like the Anthony Bourdain approach. He was just a rebel in the kitchen. He was just a rebel when he did things. He was a skill set. He had a palate, and his palate was out of this world. He could just explain flavors and take an approach of culinary arts. And so I still have one of his first cookbooks that he did. I still have it as a kid. I still have it in my closet. And then also his take on culinary education and his take in the kitchen, and then he develops his shows, and that's champ. But I'm talking about the chef Anthony Bourdain, not the TV man. The chef Anthony Bourdain was a great dude, man. He just, that was one of my two favorite people growing up was him, and again Emeril Lagasse, man. He got kicked out of Johnson and Wales, man. He stuck it to the professors. Any professor that was there back in the days will tell you Emeril Lagasse got a C in Johnson and Wales. Talked back to the professors, defied the odds, and said, "No, this is not right. I want to do things this way." He was really a rebel at Johnson Wales. He got kicked out of Johnson Wales. It was so crazy. He got kicked out of Johnson Wales, and then later on in life, they gave him an honorary doctorate. Isn't that something? That's fun.
Dude, that's dope. No, that's awesome. That's the ultimate. Yeah, that's the ultimate in your face move right there, man.
Exactly. They called him back and gave him an honorary doctorate of Johnson Wales University. But it was so funny. So you'll hear professors when I was going there. I used to act the old school professors that was there when he was there. He was like, Emeril, man, he was a pain in the ass. They used to say that all the time. But I think the passion for both of those chefs, just Anthony Bourdain and Chef Emeril Lagasse, both chefs in their own right, and they're both paving the way and giving homage. I think a lot of us that's in the food industry and people that are in the food industry, if those two weren't there, especially Anthony Bourdain, and Emeril, man, they paved the way for a lot of stuff. I always say that give credit where credit is due, and I give credit to those two gentlemen for paving the way.
Cool. I tell you what, that's a great story to know about Emeril from there. So this next thing, I want to get into culinary conversations, and I wrote out all these questions I'm really interested in. So this is almost like a little speed round of questions regarding a culinary conversation. So if you can give me responses in like 30 seconds, right? So the first thing that pops into your mind, boom, let's go ahead and spit it out and kind of go from there.
Okay.
What was your first memory of your love for cooking?
My first memory of love of cooking was at Thanksgiving when I made Thanksgiving dinner for the first time. I used to watch my mother and father. My father is from Jamaica. My mother's from Cuba. And I used to watch them in the kitchen just making food, the smells. My father he took it with serious business. He came in from the store with his bag of raw meat and his vegetables, and he cut everything right, and he seasoned everything right. It was just that was my best memory of food, is that my parents cooking in the kitchen, and then my parents saying, "Okay, you want to be a chef when you get older? You want to grow up in here? You go ahead and make
It's your turn. Your turn.
to make Thanksgiving dinner at 12 and 13 years old.
That's dope. That's a great story. So, next question: when did you know that you wanted to become a chef?
I wanted to become a cook.
A
And
cook. Okay.
I say that a cook. I think a chef is, a title earned in the kitchen. That's a position in the kitchen. If I wanted to be a cook when I was younger, just the fascination of flavors. When I was in home economics, I was the only guy in my class that was excited about food in middle school. In middle school, my teacher used to be like, "You're staying after class. You're coming in early," and I knew at that time, just her, my home economics teacher talking about food. I was like, man, when I get older, and I love it. I used to collect cookbooks when I was younger. It was so crazy.
Oh man, that's awesome. I tell you, I'm getting all kinds of little tidbits of information on you, man. This is awesome. So I know you talked about a little bit about your training. You kind of answered some of the next question where you were trained, but how difficult was it to go through some of the training processes in your lifetime?
It was really difficult. It was difficult because the chefs that taught me, especially when I started at my apprenticeship at Garden City Hotel in New York, he was a Siberian chef, and he was really rough. He was rough. He threw pots, he threw pans, but he taught me the right. He used to say, "No, Tyrone, do it this way," and he taught me to kind of zone in on perfection. Kind of say, if you're going to do things right, if you're going to do something, do it the right way. And so I think the tougher it is, the more lessons you learned. And so
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot when I was an apprentice at Garden City Hotel. I learned a lot at Johnson Wales University. That apprenticeship prepared me for Johnson Wales. Johnson Wales prepared me for working in the real world. It gave me some foundation. People think because they go to culinary school, you become a chef. False. You do not become a chef after you graduate culinary school. You still have to learn. You still have to go into into the restaurants, into the hotels, into the catering. I went out to work when I worked at Puff and Stuff in this place called Russell Moran Catering out of North Attleboro, Massachusetts. That taught me how to do catering in mass quantities. It taught me how to do math because we basically took a kitchen in the middle of a barn, in the middle of a field, and did a pop to 10 and had a break. I had a 3 compartment sink, a stove, production,
So you created a commercial kitchen out in the middle of nowhere.
outside. Yep, under a tent. And so when I first started working there, I was like, "What? These people are serious." And they said we do this on a daily basis. And I worked there for a year and a half. And when I worked for Russell Moore when I was still in Providence, and I said, "Wow!" And it just gave me just an enlightenment of how to put out food in mass production. So their model for Russell Moore and catering out in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, was we can make food anywhere. If you need us to go in the middle of a desert, we will put out a meal and cater in the middle of a desert. And they did it. They brought all the equipment. Everything is propane. They had a breakdown station. They had set up. They had expo station. They had everything. They had the captains. They had the chefs, the road chefs. They had everybody out there. Like it was a full restaurant. After they're done with decorations and tables and everything, you're like, wow, I feel like I'm in a restaurant, but you're outside in the middle of nowhere.
That's cool, man. That's legit. And I like what you said. And correct me if I'm saying this wrong. When you were talking about chef being earned, once you graduate, that's not the distinction that is
Nope.
bestowed upon you. It takes so much more than that. It's the dedication to your craft to become a chef is the important thing.
Still learning. I'm still learning, and I'm still learning, and I've learned a lot from the local chefs here. I give them credit here for the local chefs that I've run into. One of my local mentors here, Barry Honan.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot from other local chefs in the area. They've kind of kind of learned that if you're going to do things right, do it. If you're going to do something, do it right. And so a lot of the credit, just running into people, having a food conversation. I go down to when I travel or if I go into other areas of the United States, it's just always just you're running into people and you're learning. You're like, oh my God. It's like what you say, you can learn the best thing from a dishwasher, from a server, from a bartender. You can never stop learning. You're not bigger than anybody else. And I think that. I think sometimes people sometimes they meet me or they get to they meet me and they say, oh, people, some my girlfriend will say that you come off a little bit a little bit hard, but I said people, when you get to know me after a while, then you'll see, I have those same people like, oh man, you're not like what the people said you are. I'm like, I'm not. I just have this thing that I'm very focused. I walk around. I try to be focused. I don't know everything. I don't perceive to know everything, and I think that learning is very big. I go to into New York City. When I go back home to New York City, or if I go down to South Florida, I'll go into a bodega, or if I'll go into a small restaurant. I'm like, man, that's yeah. Who made this? How do you make this? Like, I'll ask questions. They were like, "Are you from the health department?" I'm like, "No, I'm not from the health department. I'm not from the health department. I just want to know what seasoning did you use?" And they're not going to tell you everything, but I always want to know the way, the cooking style. Like, how did you get to where it is to become so great? And so I think learning is one of the biggest things. Is that if you're not willing to learn, then you can never be great. And I'm
Mhm.
nowhere near great. I'm nowhere near great. I'm still learning, and I think one of the biggest things is that I've learned. Shout out to this guy, Chef Francesco and Chef Robert Mason over at Reunion Resort. They really took my hand and kind of said, "This is the way you do it. This is how you handle situations on and off the court." I always say that, on and off the court, meaning on this is how you handle things in the kitchen and out of the kitchen. And so I think those are the great lessons in life.
So my mom is tuning in, and she asked the question, "Have any chefs learned from you?" And I will say this: I've had a chance to taste your cooking, and if any chefs haven't learned some stuff from you, then they're just not paying attention. But what do you think other? And I'm going to kind of adjust this question a little bit. What do you think other chefs are learning from you?
I'm not sure. I'm not really. I'm not really sure if anybody's learning. Because I don't really think of myself as that. I think that people may. I think I've worked with line cooks, and what one of my line cooks that I me him still talk now. Is that he always says to me, Tyler, he'll joke around, "Chef, man, you always want to see things through, man. You don't play around." And so I said that's one of the things that I kind of is about seeing things through. There's adversity. You're gonna a lot of stuff is gonna come against you. You're gonna go through a lot of hardships. I've gone through a lot of hardships. I continue to go through hardships. I continue sometimes to get discouraged and a little bit depressed sometimes with things that happens in my life. And even in the culinary field, it's kind of tough. It's a tough field when you're really trying to do good. Sometimes people don't want to see you do good, and so
Mhm.
you have to kind of raise your head, and because the majority of people want to see you do good, and you don't have to. You really can't pay attention to those few. So I always tell people, determination, finish it through. My parents always taught me, the Bennetts always follow through. That's what we do.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So next question I have for you is, what do you love most about cooking?
Oh, I just like the I like the cu- I like the of taking some raw ingredients and using sometimes using the raw ingredients and what can become is like a clay a person that a potter. They take a pound of clay and they mold it they mold it into a vase, a plate, a cup, and you're able to take that 30-pound box of ribs or short ribs or steak, cut it down, fine tune it, put your own take on it, take your own skill and your knowledge and your expertise or what you've learned in your history, and kind of tell your story through that food. And so I always enjoyed it to see that, yes, the ingredients come in on the back of a truck, a
Mhm.
box of potatoes, a case of meat, a fish whole, and you have to cut it down. But then you start to have fun with it, and then you enjoy it, and then to bring people's flavors. Like I always say, like after yes, getting paid to be a cook or a chef, that's great. But then when you go out to the dining room and you see people eat your food and they enjoy it, and they have so much fun, and they look at it and they say, "Oh man, this is good." And that's where I go for it. The old, I think maybe I'm too old. I don't go for anything else. Yes, you have to make a living wage and all that stuff. But when you cook for somebody and somebody comes, that's the best gratification. When you go out to somebody's table and they said, "Man, thank you. You've made my day. You made this food was great," because you know that all that work that you put in, all the prep days and all the hard labors and dealing with coming in early
Yep.
and staying late, that all paid off. It all paid off, because you can make hundreds and thousands of dollars a year, but your customers are not happy. But my customers, I like to make my customer happy. If I'm doing catering, if I'm doing cooking, I just really love to take out and say, man, how can I tell my story? How can I tell my, show these, create a dish? Because that's what a cook is. A cook is a culinary artist. You're cooking your art. You're using food as your paint, and you're painting on the plate, and you're painting your food, and you're telling your story, and then being able to tell your story and say, this is where this comes from, and this is where this comes from. And it goes back to just back to the days of the Bible days, or the back in the days when people were roaming the earth, when that family, that time where people cooked, it brought people together. I think that's the biggest thing. Food brings people together. When
Mhm.
you bring food, and you know that in the Puerto Rican and Latino,
Yeah, man. You know how we do.
yeah, people may be working all day long. They may be going through hell and all that stuff. But when you cook that food and you sit down and you have, you eat and you talk and you eat that food, it brings everybody. And that's how I used to grow up. We used at dinner time, everybody in my family, my mother and father was old school. We sat at the table every meal. Every meal, we sat at the table.
No, that's awesome. I love that. So you talked about the art and creating. So what is your favorite art you like to create? What is your favorite dish to create?
Oh man. So from going, I like Italian food, and I love making Italian food. I love making Italian food. I love making the sauces, as the history of the sauces, the light and the dark, and the cream versus the tomato base.
Mhm.
I enjoyed my time working at Chef Francesco in Maitland, Florida, where he just took me under his wing and showed me how to make bread from scratch, and marinara from scratch, and Alfredo sauce, and the Italian wedding cakes, and the cannolis, and the risotto, and those things. It was just Italians, they take passion and love into their food. And also me, my favorite cooking, my favorite food is, I like to cook a lot of Caribbean and soul food, because soul food tells a history. Latin food, as tells the history. Soul food, back in the days, back in slavery days, they would give the slaves the poorest part of the meat and give it to them for them to cook. And so those it's so funny now that those parts of the meat are so expensive.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that, because there's, I'll use this one dish, the ropa vieja, right? So ropa vieja it was not this high end meal that you see now in all these restaurants, But now people are paying $30 a plate for that, and it makes me laugh because I go, man, that's what the poor people ate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's called old clothes for a reason. Oh yeah, I translated as old clothes. There's a reason it's called that. And now you go to a restaurant, that's one of the most expensive items on the menu. Man.
Yeah,
so it's crazy, right?
That's crazy thing. I always tell people, like, all these meals that are served in, like short ribs and brisket and all that. Even in the Irish tradition, cabbage, corned beef and potatoes.
The corned beef and cabbage, yeah.
That and cabbage. That was a poor Irish person's meal. Your mother also said bacalao.
Bacalao, yeah.
Bacalao is so expensive. Oxtail.
Oxtail's another one, yes.
Dave, man, oxtail right now is $10 a pound, man.
Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. That is insane.
But that was a poor man's meal. That was back in slavery days. They used to cut off the tail and throw it to the give it to the slaves, and they used to cut it up and serve it with and cut it and bust it down and serve it with rice and stuff like that. But it's $10 a pound right now. That's crazy.
It is. I want to kind of jump to another question that I have, since we were just now talking about ingredients. What ingredients have you found to be the toughest to work with? I know that might be a tough question, but I was sitting here and I was like, man, for a chef, I wonder what would be a tough ingredient to work with.
That'd be like out of a chop box.
Yeah, so they just put it in there and like, here you go, man, figure it out, right?
For me to work with, chitlins. I don't like chitlins.
Well, that is not what I expected you to say, but
I don't like chitlins, and I think I have tried. I don't know how to cook it. I've cooked majority everything else. Tripe and chitlins is something that I don't really mess around with. I think those are difficult for me to cook. Tripe and chitlins.
Well, I will tip my hat to you on that, because a lot of people don't recognize things that they may have as far as weaknesses, right? So you just admitted, hey, those are two things I don't like to mess with, because for whatever reason, you feel that they are not, they're not going to produce the best thing that Chef Tyrone wants to produce.
Yeah, and I can see your comments now. So somebody said they smell bad too.
That's actually my wife, man. Yeah. So
it's one of those things, like even in the grocery aisle, like my girlfriend would be like, "Oh, here, chitlin." I'm like, "Nah, we don't make it in our house. We don't make it in the house." I'm not a fan of it. It's like you said, I recognize that. I'm sorry, somebody could probably make chitlins better than me.
So yeah, that's right, man.
My father used to do some crazy stuff. He used to make cow feet. It's like basically like gelatin. There is cow feet. I don't know. I haven't messed with that either. I haven't messed with cow foot. My father knows how to make it. He's even making it from here. He's Jamaican, and he makes it. He eats it like he's eating like ribs falling off the bone. Some cow foot.
Dude, are you serious? It doesn't even. No, I'm not gonna lie. Just saying cow's feet, to me, that doesn't even sound tasty, right? It just doesn't sound tasty.
The crazy thing about it, I don't mess with anything feet, like chicken feet soup, cow feet. I don't hog feet. I don't like none of that stuff.
Yeah, so you and I are on the same page. I don't like messing with that stuff either. I have a couple of more questions I wanted to get into.
Right, no
so what is your favorite kitchen equipment to use, or gadget in the kitchen?
Oh yeah, so my go-to kitchen equipment is a mallet.
Okay.
A meat mallet, a potato peeler, a paring knife, and let's see, a towel. We can't never find a white towel. I don't know why we can never we can we can never find a. That's like gold in the kitchen. A
It
white
really is,
towel.
man.
A white dish towel is like you can never find it, and a good knife. You always need a good knife. Like you gotta have a good
Yes.
knife. You have to have your tools. You gotta come prepared. Your tools, steel sharpens steel. So you need to have your chef knife, but a paring knife, a potato peeler, a meat mallet, and a white towel.
So it's that was actually a lot simpler than I thought, because I was just talking with I was out at the TPC at Sawgrass, the country club, and talking to one of their chefs out there, and they like their toys out there, right? So they have a lot of cool
Yeah.
things that they use. So usually people right away, they think when you say, "Hey, what's your favorite car?" It's like all these really really nice cars. I like how you stuck to the basics, right? Stuck to the basics. If you can't even use a basic chef's knife, how good of a cook are you really going to be? You also mentioned the paring knife, so I like how you kept it simple,
And
kept
and,
it
and, and shout out
straightforward.
and shout out to the Roboku. The Roboku is my friend too. You have to have the Roboku ready on hand, ready to go.
No, no, yeah, definitely. And this last question I have for you: are you working on any new big projects right now that you would like to just kind of talk about for a minute or so?
So I am working on. We're working on. Me and my fiance. We're working on getting a food trailer for the fall. We want to open up a food trailer. That's the goal right now. Working very hard for that, and also I'm working on my pop up, which is going to be um, June 26th at the Village
June
Garden.
26th. Okay.
Yep, June 26th at the Village Garden. Food truck park. Shout out to Kelly, Carlos, and Brendan. Kelly and Brendan really letting me, showcase some of my soul food and Caribbean roots. And then always the We Feed organization, man. That is my true passion. Cooking is my passion, but also feeding families in need, and really, that's very um, um, close to my heart because I've gone through tough times. I lived on my friend's couch, on my friend's floor. Me and my wife stayed in a hotel because we were displaced. We didn't have anywhere to go. We couldn't afford. We stayed at a motel that was very broken down. We went through tough times. I lost my job. I lost everything. My car got repossessed. I went through a very, very tough patch in my life. And I always said, when I get out that patch, I am going to do things to help others. And some people always question me, like, why are you helping others if you went through, if you went through hard times, if you went through tough times, like, why you still continue to help? Isn't helping others got you where you are? And I always say this, and these things, Dave, and I'm not a very biblical or very, um, you know, uh, religious person, but I believe in God, and I believe in faith, and my faith, and I always go by the Bible, man. Give, and it will come back to you. Great measures, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. It doesn't matter when you're going to get your blessing. And so I don't take anything for granted. I don't take anything that I do for granted. I've been through tough times. And so my We Feed organization is very passionate. I'm very passionate about that because I would say that if I ever had the ability, if I ever had the platform to help others, I would do that with with no problem. I will give somebody my shirt off my back because I know what it is. I've gone through hard times. I've slept on a hotel floor. I slept on a floor in my friend. I've eaten 99 cents burgers twice a day because I had no money. And so I understand what not having anything is. And so people really don't really know me, and I don't really go around telling people that. Um, because I don't think that's something that you go around and advertise. I don't really go and advertise, and that's something personal to me. But I just wanted to share where the passion of me feeding others comes from. It comes from that I went through a tough time. I was homeless. I was displaced. I went through tough times, and now that I'm able to be blessed and able to give back to others, and I believe in that. I just that's something that I believe.
Well, I can say this is I know that a lot of the students that I interact with, that we both have interacted with at Flagler, that have been in my classes, are impacted by you in a positive way, because whenever they talk about you, man, they just light up. So the passion is infectious, and it's exciting to see the students get passionate about something in this day and age. But thank you so much for that, sharing that great story. Hopefully it'll inspire others. And as we wrap up tonight, Chef, I just want to give you an opportunity to have the last final word on anything that you would like regarding the conversation we've been having tonight. So take it away. What are your final thoughts that you want to share with everybody tonight?
Well, my final thoughts, Tyrone's final thoughts for today would be, if you're able in the ability to help others to make a change through culinary, through through whatever you do, make sure you're doing it to uplift somebody. I think there's enough negativity in the world. We can turn on the television all day long and watch news stations for negativity. I think that positive breeds positivity. And if we can do anything, be positive, shine your light, try to because you never know what somebody else is going through. And I always like to share my last word with this is, people may not understand me, they may not get me. And if you I'm always welcome for somebody to sit down and have a conversation with me to get to know me. Because if you get to know me, you understand that I like to give of myself, helping others, being positive. I think that we need to be more kind, more nice to people. There's enough bullying and there's enough meanness in the world, and just embrace people. And if one thing that we've learned during the pandemic is that we can always find something negative to talk about. Life is too short. I don't want to go. I don't want to. I don't want to be me. I don't want to leave this earth and have to have anybody be upset with me. And so, if I ever upset anybody, if I have ever done any wrong to anybody, I'm sorry, and I apologize, because I believe in that karma. I believe in that positivity, and so I apologize. And I'm still working on myself, and so that's my last word: is spread positivity, and forgive, and move on and repair.
I'll tell you what, those are some great last words. Thank you so much for that, Chef, ladies and gentlemen, Chef Tyrone Bennett. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And just to let everybody know, next week, we are actually going to be taking a break from the live broadcast, but there will be a pre-recorded broadcast going out. Next week, I get to celebrate the graduation of my son from high school. Yeah. So I'm going to be out in Jacksonville at TIAA. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. My daughter's coming in from Texas, so we're going to have a big family celebration and everything. So I want to go ahead and throw this up. Next week, I actually had a conversation with the head football coach at St. Augustine High School, and we talked about the 3 things that helped drive him, and I'm really excited to share this conversation next week with individuals that is pre-recorded. It's Coach Brian Braddock, the varsity head football coach at St. Augustine High. And we talked about 3 things that drive him, which are his faith, his family, and of course, football. So next week is going to be a great conversation with myself and Coach Braddock. It will not be live. It'll be pre-recorded because we're celebrating another one of my children graduating from high school, getting ready to make that transition. And here's an awesome part, Chef Tyrone. You're probably going to see him a lot. He's actually going to be coming to Flagler College, so I'm pretty hyped. There's going to be another Rivera on the Flagler College campus.
Okay.
And again, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. This truly was an uplifting conversation, and it did 2 things. Not only did it feed my soul, it really did with your words, but now it's made my belly feel hungry. Now I want to go grab a snack, right, man?
All right, man.
Because
I will tell people this: if you're ever in St. Augustine and you have a chance to get some of Chef Tyrone's food, I highly recommend it. I've had your cornbread muffins. I have had your barbecue sandwiches, which the students loved during finals. That one time you came in, and the little party you threw for us at Scarlett's.
No
So the students love the cooking, and you truly are an inspiration to the people of St. Augustine. I've seen what you've done with the We Feeds, and that's why I said the Celebrity Chef of St. Augustine, because this is only the beginning. You're shaking your head no, but when I mention your name, people know who I'm talking about. Chef Tyrone, thank you again for your time this evening. I truly appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you around St. Augustine and doing a lot of big things, because you truly are an amazing individual. Thank you again for your time, sir.
No problem, sir.
I hope everybody has a good night. Please stay happy, healthy, and safe, and I hope everybody has a good night and enjoy the rest of your week. Good night.